Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. It was a birthday party. Her friends, her playlist, her wine glasses scattered across the counter like trophies. I stood in the corner, holding a plate I didn't want, listening to her laugh louder than she had in months. Then I heard it. He's just stable, you know? Always there. Like furniture. They laughed. She laughed the hardest. She didn't know I heard. I wasn't meant to. I just smiled politely, nodded when someone offered me cake, said, "Yeah, I'm lucky to have her." The usual line. But inside, something froze. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Something cleaner. Colder. A moment of absolute clarity. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a lease extension on a man she didn't even check for anymore. And in that exact second, I knew I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to slam doors. I was going to make myself disappear. Not out of spite. Out of strategy. She wanted the stable background? Fine. Let's see what her life looked like without a frame. I watched her twirl to the music. Watched her friends drink wine I paid for. And I started planning my exit from inside the room. Quietly. Like an architect pulling the last beam from a house still standing. She smiled at me once that night. I smiled back. But I was already gone. I didn't pack a bag. That's what most men get wrong. They storm out with a suitcase and think distance equals power. But I wasn't looking for distance. I was looking for perspective. So I stayed. I stayed in the same house, same bedroom, same kitchen, only now I was an observer. A ghost that paid the mortgage. The first morning after the party, she asked if I could pick up oat milk on my way back from work. No eye contact. No, thanks. Just assumption. I said, sure. And I did. But while I was standing in aisle 3, staring at a dozen identical cartons of milk, I realized she had no idea I had started keeping track of everything, every conversation, every favor, every omission. I wasn't collecting evidence. I was studying a pattern. I was trying to understand how someone could be so present physically and so vacant emotionally. That night, I set the table for 2. She ate on the couch, scrolled through her phone between bites. "You okay?" she asked once, halfway through an ad for yoga leggings. "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking." "Don't overthink," she said, not looking up. "It's just life." That sentence stuck with me. It's just life. Like the slow erosion of attention, kindness, warmth, that was all normal. Acceptable. I stopped initiating conversation. I stopped suggesting shows to watch. I slept facing the other direction. She noticed none of it. And the more I withheld, the more she relaxed. As if my silence was proof that everything was fine. But I wasn't quiet because I was fine. I was quiet because I was testing a theory. If I stopped being her emotional crutch, would she even notice I fell? One day, I changed the password to our shared Netflix account. She texted me from the other room. "Did you change the login?" "Yeah," I replied. "Needed a reset." She didn't ask why. She didn't ask for the new one. The next week, she went out for drinks with her coworkers. Didn't tell me until 10 minutes before she left. "I'll be late," she said, grabbing her purse. "You good?" I smiled. "Of course. I'm always good, right?" She laughed, kissed the air near my cheek, and left. And I stood in the hallway, holding on to that echo of fake affection, thinking, she really thinks I'm still here. But I wasn't. Not really. I was already halfway out the door, in my head, in my heart. I just hadn't moved my body yet. That was coming. But first, I needed her to believe she hadn't lost anything. Because only then would she feel it when I was finally gone. It started with mornings. We used to bump into each other in the kitchen, coffee, toast, a quick kiss, a tired smile. A routine, like traffic lights. Predictable. Automatic. Now, I woke up earlier. On purpose. She'd come down around 7:45, still groggy, hair tied back, and find the coffee already brewed, the dishes already done. I was in my corner of the dining room, laptop open, acting busy. She thought I was being helpful. Thoughtful, even. I wasn't. I was removing myself from her rituals. From her rhythm. She just didn't feel the silence yet because the machine still ran. That's the thing about men like me. We don't explode. We extract. I stopped reacting. That was the real shift. She told a story at dinner about some guy at her office who got her sense of humor. I didn't blink. I nodded once, took a bite, and said, "Sounds fun." She frowned. "That's it. What else is there to say?" I smiled. "You laughed. That's good." The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was surgical. At night, I took longer showers. Stayed in the bathroom after, pretending to scroll, but really just detaching. One thread at a time. I wasn't preparing for a fight. I was rehearsing an ending. And then came her mistake. It was small. Stupid, even. A message on her laptop. She was in the kitchen. I passed by her desk. The screen lit up. Sorry about last night. I wanted to text, but he was still awake. I didn't flinch. Didn't tap the mouse. Didn't check who it was from. Didn't need to. Because the point wasn't the message. The point was this. She wasn't even afraid I'd see it. That's when I knew, in her mind, I was already a shadow. Background noise. Wallpaper. And that's exactly what I needed her to believe. Later that night, she walked into the room in a tank top she used to wear when she wanted my attention. She leaned on the doorframe like it was 2017. Babe, everything okay? I looked up from my screen, slow and calm. Perfect. She smiled. But her eyes lingered. Like maybe, just maybe, she felt something shifting. But she couldn't name it. Because I hadn't left. Not yet. Just everything I used to bring, had. The day she asked if I wanted to go to her sister's barbecue, I said yes. She blinked. Really? Sure, I said. Why not? I saw it in her face, confusion, not joy. She expected the same old vague excuse. But I learned that nothing disorients people more than cooperation when they expect distance. So I shaved, put on the button-down she used to compliment, and drove us there in silence. She chatted the whole ride. I answered in smiles. Not cold, not warm. Just quiet enough for her to hear her own voice echo. At the party, I shook hands, told jokes, even helped her brother clean up spilled wine. I played the man she remembered, not the one she now lived with. And that scared her. She kept looking at me like she couldn't figure out what was different. I was kind, attentive, polite. Everything I hadn't been in weeks. But it wasn't a return. It was a performance. A farewell tour. On the way home, she tried to start something deeper. You've seemed better lately. Like, lighter. I am, I said. Just had to adjust my expectations. She went quiet. That was the first real moment of silence, not between our mouths, but in her head. The next few days, I could feel her trying. She asked if I wanted to watch something. I said no, I was reading. She cooked dinner. I ate it, thanked her, cleaned my plate. She leaned into me while brushing her teeth. I stepped back gently to rinse the sink. And through it all, she started to panic, not in drama, but in micro-movements. Longer hugs. Softer tones. Old perfume. Things I didn't ask for. But I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't angry. I was just done. And she could feel it. She just didn't know where the line had been crossed. Because I never drew it for her. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was late. She couldn't sleep. I was on the couch again, my choice. She walked in, blanket in hand, sat beside me. I miss how we used to be. I looked at her. You miss me, I said. But not enough to notice when I disappeared. She didn't answer. Because she knew. Not that I was leaving, but that I already had. And all that was left was the formality. After that night, something changed in her. It wasn't loud, but it was there, a hesitation in every movement, like she was afraid any wrong word would snap the thread between us completely. She started checking in. Want anything from the store? Should I cook something you like tonight? We could go away this weekend, just us. I nodded, smiled, declined, always gently, never cold. Because I wasn't trying to punish her. I was trying to give her one last chance to recognize the value of something before it was gone. But what I got in return wasn't a woman ready to fight for us. It was someone hoping I'd fix what she broke, without admitting she broke it. So I gave her a test. One night, I said, I'm thinking of staying at a hotel for a few days. Just to get some space. Her eyes flinched. Barely. But it was there. Oh, is this about work stress? She asked, as if it had nothing to do with her. As if maybe, if she ignored the obvious long enough, it might stay buried. I didn't correct her. If that's what you need, she added, already moving toward retreat. That was my answer. She wouldn't stop me. Not because she didn't care, but because she didn't know how to care anymore. Not actively. Not bravely. I packed a single duffel bag. No drama. No speeches. She watched from the kitchen, arms folded, eyes locked on the floor like the linoleum might offer her a script. You'll text me, she asked quietly. I nodded. If I have something to say. That one landed. Not hard. Not loud. But sharp. And honest. At the door, she said something I'll never forget. I didn't mean to take you for granted. I looked at her one last time. She looked small, not physically, emotionally, like a queen who just realized her crown was borrowed. I know, I said. That's why I didn't yell. Then I walked out. No door slam. No look back. Because when a man finally walks, it's not to make a point. It's because the conversation ended long before the goodbye. The hotel was nothing special. Quiet. Clean. A sterile kind of peace that didn't ask questions. I didn't text her the first night, or the second. Instead, I sat by the window with a notebook and wrote down the version of me that had existed in that house. The fixer. The provider. The background character. It was like writing an obituary for a man who never got to be himself. On the third day, she called. I let it ring. Then a message. Are you okay? A good question. 2 weeks ago, I would have answered it instantly. But now? Now I wasn't sure if okay meant alive or just numb. Later that evening, another message. I get it now. I think I really do. She didn't. Because if she did, she would have gotten it before I walked out. Not after I made space. I didn't reply. The next morning, a knock on my hotel door. Not her. It was the concierge with a delivery, a bag with a clean shirt, some of my books, and a note in her handwriting. You left these, just in case you needed pieces of yourself. I stared at the bag for a long time, because she finally did something meaningful, and yet, it wasn't for me. It was for the ghost she realized she couldn't summon back. The man who used to live to please her, who used to jump at crumbs, who stayed when he should have walked. But I wasn't that man anymore. Back at home, I imagined her walking through the kitchen, seeing the mug I used to use, reaching for her phone, and stopping mid-motion, because she didn't know what to say anymore. Because when you say he'll never leave, and then he does, it's not the leaving that hurts. It's the silence that follows it. I stayed 4 more nights at the hotel, not because I needed the bed, but because I wanted to see how long she would take to realize. The man she took for granted hadn't just left the house. He left the role she put him in. And that version of me? He wasn't coming back. Day 8. No calls. No texts. Just silence. And not the peaceful kind. The kind that fills a space when someone finally realizes the other person isn't playing a game, he's done playing. Then, on day 9, she broke pattern. I got a message. Come home. Let's talk. I think we lost track of what matters. She always had a way of making mutual damage sound mutual. Like we both just drifted. Like we both forgot. But I remembered everything. He's just stable. Every time I reached for her in bed and she turned the other way. Every night I sat on that couch while she laughed at her phone screen, not once checking if I was breathing. Still, I went back. Not to return, but to finish. She opened the door in one of those soft sweaters she used to wear when she knew I was angry. That small, silent apology. But now it felt like costuming. Like she was trying to play a woman I used to love. I've been thinking, she said quietly. We could take a trip. Just us. Reset. I stepped inside, looked around. Nothing had changed. The same keys on the hook. The same grocery list on the fridge. It was like I'd never left E. And that told me everything. You want to reset? I said slowly, but with the same script. Same house. Same dynamic. You don't want to fix us. You want to rewind me. She looked down, like a child caught red-handed. And then she whispered, Do you still love me? I paused. Not for effect, but because the truth was complicated. I loved the man I was when we started. And I hate what I became trying to be enough for you. She blinked hard, but I didn't let her speak. I'm not angry anymore, I added. I'm just unavailable. You didn't lose me this week. You lost me a long time ago. I walked past her, put the house key on the table, and stepped out into evening air that felt like breath after holding it too long. Behind me, the door stayed open a second too long, like she still thought I'd turn around. But I didn't, because she wasn't waiting for me. She was waiting for the version of me who would have stayed. And that man was gone. A week passed. Then 2. And for once, nothing came. No, I miss you. No, let's talk. Not even a passive-aggressive meme on social media. Just complete, hollow silence. I knew her well enough to know what that meant. She was waiting for me to break first. But I didn't. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't angry. I wasn't exhausted. I was calm. Then, one afternoon, I got a text. Do you think we could ever undo this? I stared at it for a long time, because I knew she didn't miss me. She missed the idea of me, the version of me who absorbed, who fixed, who stayed. So I wrote her back. No, but I hope you grow from it. She replied with, That's cold. And maybe it was. But cold is what happens when warmth isn't returned. Not suddenly, slowly, over months, years. People don't freeze all at once. They cool, inch by inch, until touch becomes foreign. She didn't understand that, because she thought I was still somewhere in the background, like a TV on mute, always there if she changed her mind. But I'd turned off the power, and I wasn't watching anymore. I didn't run into someone else. There wasn't a rebound. No whirlwind romance. No arms to fall into. But still, I found peace. And for a man who lived in a home full of noise and absence, peace feels like a person. I started waking up without checking my phone. I brewed my coffee for myself. I reclaimed my mornings, my evenings, my name. I bumped into an old friend at the gym. We talked. She laughed at something I said, not politely, but genuinely. And for a second, I realized I'd forgotten what that felt like. Still, I didn't bring anyone home. Because that house, it wasn't home anymore. It was a monument. A museum of all the times I waited too long to leave. I passed by it once. Just driving. Out of habit. The light in the kitchen was on. I imagined her standing there, cup in hand, staring at a room that finally echoed. No music. No breathing behind her. No commentary from across the couch. She had the house. But I had myself again. That was the trade. And I'd make it every time. Months passed. No storms. No scenes. Just time doing what time does best, stripping away illusions. She reached out once more. A simple message. Can we talk? No drama. Just closure. Closure. That word people use when they want the ending to feel mutual. But some stories don't end with a handshake. They end with a mirror. And most people don't want to look into it. Still, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. Neutral ground. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, just less certain. Like someone whose script had been taken away. I've been thinking a lot, she said. About everything. About how I made you feel invisible. Unimportant. I didn't interrupt. She hesitated. I didn't know you were fading until you were gone. I nodded slowly. You didn't know, because I stopped telling you. She blinked. I used to warn you. Every silence, every shift in tone, was a message. But you never listened. And eventually, I stopped sending them. She swallowed hard. Was it ever real for you? Of course it was, I said. But love isn't a prison. And loyalty isn't self-erasure. We sat in silence. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Is there someone else now? I smiled gently. No, there's just me. And that's more than enough. She looked down. No tears. Just that quiet heartbreak of realizing the chapter didn't just close. It was already printed, bound, and shelved. I stood up, left a 20 on the table. Take care of yourself, I said. She nodded. You too. And as I walked out into the street, something hit me. For years, I thought I'd have to fight for closure. That I'd need revenge, or validation, or proof that she regretted it. But I didn't. Because the real ending didn't happen at that cafe. It happened the moment I stopped chasing love and started protecting peace. She never saw it coming. Because she thought endings always come with noise. But this one came with silence. And it was the loudest truth of all. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.